I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today, and this is Capitol Download. We're on Capitol Hill. We're joined by Senator David Vitter of Louisiana, a Republican, and Senator Tom Udall of New Mexico, a Democrat. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Good to be with you, Susan.
We want to talk about a big environmental bill that you two are cooperating on, but before we do that, just your thoughts on some breaking news. This Iran nuclear deal. Senator Vitter, I know you've been skeptical of the negotiations when they were going on. Do you think this is a good deal for the United States?
Based on the details I've seen, I really don't. I think it's a bad deal, and I'm still digesting those details, but I think it's a bad deal. Tom and I probably disagree about this, so this will underscore how we're really bridging the gap with regard to TUSC and doing important bipartisan work.
So, Senator Udall, you're a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. What do you
right.
think? Is this a good deal for the United States?
Well, on a final decision, I haven't made that yet because Foreign Relations is going to do an extensive review. But yeah, I'm impressed that 6 countries have come together in a very meaningful way and put together an agreement which they're representing prevents Iran from getting a nuclear weapon.
Do you think there are probably 60 votes for a resolution of disapproval?
I have no idea right now. I think it would be close one way or the other, but I have no idea right now.
And just to continue on the question of the vote, the President could veto a resolution of disapproval. He said he will veto one if one is passed. He would just need 34 votes in the Senate then to prevent an override of that veto. That's a pretty low bar, isn't it, Senator Udall? You think
well,
I would hope.
Yeah, I think he's going to be fine there, but I hope we don't go there. I think for an agreement that's this historic and trying to kind of change the mix in the Middle East, I hope that we have more support than that. But I think he'll be all right on that number at this point.
The Frank Lautenberg Chemical Safety for the 21st Century Act is something you two are working on. You know, I think most Americans assume if you go to the grocery store, you buy something to eat, something to use in your house, that it is safe to use. Is that the case now?
I think it is largely the case, but I think we can definitely improve our safety standards and system and make sure American business are still the innovators, the leaders in terms of producing new technology and new chemicals.
I think the assumption is right that you say they think it's been done. Well, it hasn't been done, and David and I both know there's a lot of work there, and that's really what has brought us together, is seeing the reform that's needed. And he has been he worked with Frank Lautenberg. I was on the original bill that I'd call the perfect bill. We didn't get a single Republican vote, and so it took David and Frank to come together and get a compromise, and we've been working on it now for 2 years,
yeah.
and it improves every day in terms of people coming aboard and changes that we keep working on.
You know, most of the big environmental pieces of legislation have been updated over the years. The Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act. The Chemical Safety Bill has not really been updated in the past 40 years. Why not?
It never has, because the two sides were so at odds about exactly how to do that. Tom described Frank's original bill as the perfect bill. I didn't describe it that way. We had a pretty big gulf between ourselves, but we talked and sometimes argued and fought and walked away and walked back several times and finally developed, I think, what was the heart of a very good compromise.
There was a time when 2 senators from different parties making compromises for legislation you both wanted wouldn't have seemed so unusual.
Right.
It seems pretty unusual these days. It's
Yeah.
as though Congress has gotten out of the habit of doing what you two have done. Why is that?
Well, you're right, first of all. I mean, it used to be the norm. Now it's more the exception. It's not as much the exception as some people think.
We have a divided country, and the Congress reflects that division. One of the other things that I think is remarkable here is the fact that we can't even fund the government. I mean, you know, I'm an appropriator. David's he's an authorizer, and we limp along, you know, for years and years. Some of the bills I've worked on, they haven't been on the floor in 6 or 7 years, and so there is a lot of dysfunction, and this gives me some hope to see this happen on a major piece of legislation. When we first went to Senator Inhofe, we said, you know, you're going to pass infrastructure probably, but to pass a major piece of environmental legislation out of Environment and Public Works, it would be the first time since the 1990s in the Clean Air Act.
Right. In thinking about lessons learned, was there a point when this could have fallen apart?
Oh, no, there wasn't a point. There were about 22 points where it did fall apart temporarily, thankfully temporarily. So yeah, there were about 22 points, more at the front end, particularly when I was negotiating with Frank. It did fall apart. I mean, we literally walked away several times, some at the back end.
When you're dealing with like a budget shutdown coming up or some other big piece of legislation where there just seems to be two polarized sides, what's the lesson from your experience?
Well,
here?
the lesson for me was that we had a dinner meeting a couple of years ago, just the two of us, and we went out and we sat down and it was a social dinner, and at the end of the dinner we decided we were going to work with each other on this piece of legislation, and we've never given up.
Last question, one for each of you. Senator Udall, your colleague Senator Sanders is doing surprisingly well against Hillary Clinton. What do you think of that? A surprise?
Well, I'm a supporter of Hillary. I'll say that up front. But I admire Bernie. I think he's an incredibly hard worker, and he's really motivated progressives. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it doesn't matter the age. And now in this day and age, to get 5,000 people at a rally or 6,000 people rally, that is very tough. And so it tells you he's moving some people.
And a political question for you, Senator Vitter, as we close down. We have a new poll out. It shows Donald Trump leading the Republican field nationwide. Does that make you at all nervous as a Republican?
Well, I haven't seen the poll, so I don't know, how valid it is or how it was taken. Ultimately, it doesn't. I think we have a great field of candidates in general. And I'm not worried about the size of the field either, because I think the quality is the best it's been in several rounds of elections. So I feel good about that, and I think we're going to end up with a very solid nominee.
Senator Vitter, Senator Udall, thanks so much for joining us on Capitol Hill.
Thanks.
Thank you.